Losing a loved one is always challenging, but especially if you are young. Well, the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, has told bereaved children of armed forces that they are not alone during Remembrance Sunday and that he shares a bond with them after losing a parent himself. Harry wrote an emotional letter to children at Scotty's Little Soldiers, a charity for bereaved British Forces children. So joining us now is Nikki Scott, founder of Scotty's Little Soldiers, a charity dedicated to supporting bereaved British Forces children and young people. Thank you so much for joining GB News this morning, Nikki. So how did it come about that Harry wrote this letter for your charity?
So we've had a really good relationship, really positive relationship from Prince Harry for quite a while now. He's reached out to the charity and our members that we support quite a few times. And then we heard from his team and himself that he was thinking of our members and wanted to do something to make sure that they knew he was thinking of them this remembrance. So, sent in the letter that we then sent out to all of the children and young people we support.
How many children a year, roughly, Nikki, are there in the UK or at any given moment who've lost lost parents, in the armed forces?
No one knows actually exactly how many bereaved British Forces children and young people there are out there. Actually, it's something that we try to find out constantly on a daily basis. We know there will be, we've got a long-term goal of supporting 1,000 plus by 2030. And we know there are probably a lot more than that. We have newly bereaved children coming and joining our charity on a regular basis, like weekly basis. The number goes up. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, really. It's,
Yeah, but very sadly, the number goes up. How did you get involved, Nikki?
So my husband, Corporal Lee Scott, was killed in Afghanistan in 2009, and I quickly realised, the effects his death had on our two young children, Kai and Brooke. And there was just, some great UK military charities out there doing great work, but there was very limited support for bereaved British Forces children who had experienced the death of a parent. So that's kind of where the charity has stemmed from. And as we've grown, we've realised there's a lot more support that's needed. And so the charity's growing with the services that we offer.
I'm so sorry to hear that. And it's always hard when a child loses a parent. It's the worst possible, imaginable event in a child's life. How is it different, do you think, for children who lose their parents when they are in an active service? How do you handle that differently?
Yeah, so, like you said, for any child or young person that experiences the death of a parent, it's really hard. You never get over that. And there's triggers along the way, different milestones that the children face that will trigger those feelings and emotions. So, but I think for bereaved military children, I think it's very much they're part of a military community, and then you lose that community. You not always, it's not anyone's fault, but you get disattached from that community. So at Scotty's, it's a way of bringing them back into that community again, making sure they never feel alone. And there's so many times when, there's Remembrance, for example, this weekend, there's some really key events, the war in Ukraine, that can just really trigger the emotions. And also, for myself and my children, we were living in a military garrison, in an, army accommodation. So not only did we, have to deal with all our grief, but we had to move house, change schools, leave all our friends behind. So that's why Scotty's is so important, to keep that community together.
Oh, amazing. What an amazing job you do. And just sum up to me what it means when Harry speaks out publicly and when he reaches out to the children. How special is that?
Very special. And this weekend, you can probably tell by the look of me and the sound of me, but it is an emotional weekend for any bereaved family, military family. And to just hear from Prince Harry, it means the world. I can't even put it into words. The feedback from the members, the children themselves, has been incredible. Just to know that one young lady said to me, she's 13, she said, I just feel like suddenly I'm so important. Prince Harry has written to me and he remembered, knows about us, and that you can't get, that's just so special. You can't beat that. They just being remembered is so important to these children and young people.
Thank you, Nikki. Keep up the amazing work, won't you? Thank you so much for telling us all about it on GB News this morning. Nikki Scott there, founder of Scotty's Little Soldiers, a charity dedicated to supporting bereaved British Forces children and young people. Nick, I want to bring you in. You lost your dad when you were very young, didn't you?
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, what happened?
So my dad died in a car crash on Halloween. Halloween evening, which is quite spooky. I mean, it's a great charity that we've just heard about there. All I would say is children are more resilient than we give them credit for. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy, but, you know, children can get over these things and do get over these things and need help and support and need charities like that. What we don't think about is children who do worse, their fathers are normally alive. So missing out on a father and not having a father in your life, when you know he's alive, damages children more than losing your father in an accident or armed forces.
Because you've got that sense of rejection that your father is alive and he's not involved in your life. Stephen, it's a very, you know, we talk about Prince Harry a lot, and obviously his wife drives most of us up the wall, right? We don't always agree with what she's been doing. We don't like the way that she's thrown the royal family under the bus and criticised them. I think it's easy to forget with Harry that he went through this personality-changing trauma as a child, and maybe we should let him off the hook a bit.
I think we have to cut him some slack.
I think so.
He's been there. You know, he's actually been there in Helmand. In a place that I don't think any of us would actually willingly go there. He's actually been there. But look, my wife was born in an RAF base in Warrington, you know, and I know a little bit about these service families. But just if I may just say one very important thing. The Royal British Legion exists to help not just service personnel, but their families as well. And I'm the president of the Greenford branch of the Legion. One of our members, Chris Casey, who was killed in Iraq, his family are invited on Remembrance Sunday to actually stand there with the dignitaries doing the presentation, and we will welcome and this is, you know, the parents of the slain, their children, anybody who's in that family. The Royal British Legion is there to help them. It's not just for serving military personnel. And I'm sorry to underline that, but I wish people mustn't suffer in silence. The Legion exists to provide another level of family support. Please, please get in touch with us.
Yeah. Toby, it is the Monday after Remembrance weekend. We're talking about Prince Harry and the children there that have lost parents in the services. How do you think our relationship in the UK is to our military at the moment? It's time to reflect on it on a weekend like this, on Remembrance weekend, isn't it? What were your thoughts yesterday?
Yeah, I think we often imagine that we are a nation full of self-loathing, self-doubt, that when we think of our armed forces, we think of colonialism and the empire and not something to be proud of. That's the kind of story often told, and often told in schools as well, to children. But actually, on things like Remembrance Sunday, you realise that, you know, beneath that superficial veneer, that spin, there's a huge amount of patriotism and still a huge amount of self-belief and pride in this country. So it's really great to be reminded of.
Yeah, it is.